video is part of the What Would You Make open playlist. It's hosted by Brenda from Rustic and Lace DIY, Christine from Divine Designs, and Cindy from Z9 Designs. Their channel links and a link to the playlist will be in my description box below. Project number 1, Christmas Scene Sign. That's a $2 cabinet front that I purchased at Habitat for Humanity Restore. I'm just wiping it down with some rubbing alcohol. And it's pretty big. I don't have the measurements. I will put them in my description box if I can find them. And this is some decoupage paper that I got from Sammy at Unicorn Dust Designs. And it is perfect for this little cabinet front that's going to become just a really big Christmas scene sign. So I'm just cutting out. I just kind of put the paper on the cabinet front and moved it around until I liked, what was in the middle. And then just cut it with some regular scissors. You don't have to be too fancy about the edges because they're going to be covered up by nautical rope. So now I'm going to put the decoupage paper on with just this Jot glue stick. Got that from Dollar Tree. It's a great sort of faux decoupage. And I really like how it comes out, especially the decoupage paper has got a little bit of thickness to it, so it works better than, say, a napkin might. And I'm just really careful smoothing down the paper with my hand and then with the paper towel. And it comes out, I don't want to say perfect, but it's pretty close to perfect according to me. And again, I'm just using the scissors to cut the edges. They're going to be covered. You're not going to see them. And that's the fun thing about crafting is you can make stuff look a lot more perfect than it really is underneath whatever you choose to cover it up with. I'm showing this rope going on, but this is actually the rope that got covered in paint. So I do actually pull it off towards the end of the craft and put on a new piece of rope. And, thankfully I did have extra pieces of rope. If you don't have a stash with some nautical rope in it, you might want to just cover it with some painter's tape maybe, and, just be careful and put it on the end. This is a tube of acrylic paint, and I thought it was burnt umber, but it's raw umber, and it's got a more cherry reddish tone to it. I didn't like it, but I did this huge swipe when I first put it on, so there was nothing doing, there was no going back, so I just went ahead and I kept going over it. I wanted to get the color on there, but without the really dark red tone to it. So the trick here was going to be to paint over the umber with some of this DIY paint. It's tarnished pearl, I believe, which is kind of a white. But DIY paint is different than the chalk paint that I'm used to. And normally what you would do is put the chalk paint down, cover it with school glue right away, and then use your heat gun to make some vintage looking paint crackles. But that didn't work because that paint just isn't the right kind of paint for this. So I really spent a long time using my heat gun to dry the top of this to try and get some crackle, but it didn't come out real good, and that's okay. It's an interesting texture, so I'm going with it. This is the new rope. I just yanked the old rope off carefully and put the new rope down, and very pleased with how it came out. I'm going to use just a regular heavy-duty stapler to get this holly and berry picks on here. It was looking very minimalist before this, and if you like minimalism, that's perfect because you know, just leave it. But I wanted a little bit of embellishment, so I'm putting on this holly and berries. And it reminds me of vintage holly and berries because the dark green in the middle of the leaf and then the whiter color on the edges of the leaf. So I got this Dollar Tree burlap and lace ribbon. I'm making the awareness shape, scrunching it in the middle. I wrap it with some floral wire and then wrap it again with some twine, just because I like the look. I'm also going to staple this bow on because I can, and because of the thickness of this cabinet front here, it's just really easy to use the stapler on it. And I'm just going to sort of tuck the staple in underneath, and then I'll come back with some little leaves and pine cones to cover up the staples. I dovetailed the ends there. I'll hot glue these little pine cone picks. And we just have this really pretty Christmas scene sign. And you can hang it however you want, and I'm going to give you a better look at it during the final reveal. Little Christmas Scene house sign. So this is a wood shape that I purchased from Dollar Tree, and in keeping with the theme of the playlist, we got a lot of wood going on in this particular craft. I'm using some watered down burnt umber and painting it onto the wood, but I watered it down because I want it to sort of soak in, and then I'll wipe it with some paper towel to get that dry look. That a lot of people like that. I thought I was weird liking it, but apparently a lot of other people like it too. This is the decoupage paper that I purchased from Sammy at Unicorn Dust Designs. And I'm just sort of moving it around onto the house shape until I like what's on top there, and then I'll press it down with my fingers like you saw, and just cut it with some regular scissors. This whole video is about Christmas scene signs. Say that 5 times fast. And, you know, doing the wood and the decoupage. And I sort of like the alliteration of scene signs, so we're going with it. I painted that matte Mod Podge onto the wood there, into the wood actually. And then there's these gold flakes that I got from Grace. Many of you know that I got a lot of my crafting supplies when my neighbor Grace passed away. She was quite the crafter and had quite the stash, so I was grateful to her family for gifting a lot of it to me. I'm going to go ahead and carefully place that decoupage paper on top there. And just a couple swipes is all it needs. I love this method of decoupage. I actually probably wouldn't have ever decoupaged if I hadn't learned this method. So, you know, if you haven't tried it already, you might want to give it a try, because I swear by it. But yeah, we're using some sandpaper. It is a really good way to get a nice finish on the paper. Looks like it was always there and meant to be. This snowflake has been painted white for a number of years, and I thought it would look good on the top here, but I actually end up getting rid of it. Yes. The wood snowflake here, the larger wood snowflake, got a sprinkle of gold as well. And this little piece of gold fabric is actually from a fancy poinsettia pick that I got from Dollar Tree, and what I'm putting on top here is the middle of the poinsettia. Basically just like dissected the poinsettia and put the parts of it onto our little Christmas scene sign here. So I went ahead and took that snowflake off, and I have this really pretty shiny gold bow that was in a random bag that I purchased at a thrift store. And a lot of my tree decorations are also from these thrift store bags of random Christmas decorations. And I just love the vintage aspect of them. So this little gold bowl just got a bit of a makeover, and there you have it, and better look at the final reveal. Okay, project number 3 is a small Christmas scene sign with a wood bead garland. I've had this welcome sign in this shiny white frame with a pink background for quite a long time. So it's time to give it a Christmas makeover. I'm going to yank this welcome part of the sign off, and I don't really know why I did it like that. You don't really need to. I could have just flipped it around because I'm going to use the back of it anyway. And now I did have a glue issue, which I will explain to you in just a second. And I wonder if maybe I should have tried taking the paper off the front, like Brenda from Rustic and Lace does. She does an awesome job of it, me not so much. So I usually use the back, but look, I have the Jot glue stick like the previous project, but it didn't work. Like the whatever that is, like particle board or whatever, it was so shiny, the glue couldn't even stay onto it. It was very strange. Never seen that before, but there's always a first time. So here is some matte Mod Podge from the little Dollar Tree bottle, and I'm using a foam brush to paint the Mod Podge on. And I'm just going to do this in sections, like you would with a napkin or anything else you're decoupaging. So if I just press the paper down and very carefully pat and rub it with my fingers. You don't want to do a lot of pressure. You just want to make it so there's no wrinkles. So mostly what you're doing when you're rubbing it is just rubbing out the wrinkles. And then I go over it with just a piece of paper towel. I just fold it and rub it. Again, not too much pressure. I went ahead and just cut the edges off. You're not going to see them. They're going to be under the frame. Now comes the wood bead garland. I brought this wood bead garland to Canada with me in my suitcase in a plastic bag where I also brought my DIY paints. I taped the tops of the DIY paints and I sealed the bag, but the paint leaked all over the bag. So the garland is a little wonky. The tassel part is a little wonky because I actually had to wash the green paint out of the tassels. And the reason I'm painting it too is because I just couldn't get all the paint off of it. So there's the story of the garland. But it ends up looking fantastic, so I'm not mad that I had to paint it green. And just looking at this gives me the heebie-jeebies. This is one of my mom's emery boards, and I used it to rub off some of the hot glue that I put on there. I put the hot glue on there because it's sort of like using like a caulk or a spackle to fill in the hole and make it less visible. So use the hot glue, and then by the time I sanded it a bit and put the paint on, you could hardly tell there was a hole there. So, you know, you don't always have to have the perfect supplies. You just got to make it work. So there, oh, doesn't that look pretty? The garland came out so nice, and that color of the snowflake with the background, I'm in love. So there's the back of the sign. Just popping it in there. And those little black specks, I actually used those to make the hanging cord. And I put a little dab of hot glue on top of them after I tied the knot on those little tabs. But before that, I hot glued the little snowflake on there. So pretty. I used some, I cut off a couple pieces of a floral wire, and I took the scene out of the frame and attached the garland to the top corners with some floral wire. And that way it just kind of looks like it's hanging on a house, you know, and it's sort of like sags in the middle like a normal garland would. So that was like a super, you know, total fluke, and it ended up looking so fantastic. And the reason it was a fluke is because I really wanted to hot glue it on, but I had tried painting that frame and there was paint left on it, and the hot glue would hardly stick. So using the floral wire was like a happy accident. So I did glue down a couple spots. Some of them, it came up in some spots, other spots, not so much. And I just love how this turned out, and I'm going to give you a better look at it during the final reveal.